Today, as a part of this demo, we will look into the scenario numbers 3.13, 4.10, and 7.17, which has a common story, which reads as the accounting entries are automatically created based on real-time POS data for the deal. On a periodic basis, claims are generated systematically and shared with Pepsi. Pepsi reviews the claims and the claim totals, and POS margin is calculated under the spread price. But the other scenarios like 4.10 and 7.17 are also similar, but with different items and different uh, sales combinations, in fact. Right, so we will look into the scenarios, but before that, I'd like to introduce or to handle this particular requirement and also the concept of deal management. We bring you advanced supply chain software, which is called as ASES, which is a part of Sonara's modern distribution, is an ISV solution for Microsoft Dynamics 365 finance and operations. It was developed working closely with distributors and manufacturers and is a direct response to their needs. Well, ASCS provides important industry-specific functionality such as trade promotion management, advanced pricing, and rebates and special price agreements, which we think would be beneficial for the SBM's business. Right? We have observed that SBM uses deals which are managed with the customers as well as vendors. So one of the features of ASES called as sales program helps us to configure the whole deal on one single screen or form. So we will look into the system and see how these sales programs are configured and how the scenarios that we called out as 3.13, 4.10, and 7.17 are handled through this particular screen and a few other concepts of our advanced supply chain software. Let's get into the system. I have added these into the favorites, but in general, if you have to navigate from the modules, you can always go into sales and marketing and scroll to the right. You will see that there are a couple of pricing and promotion header, and underneath you have sales programs, pricing workbench, and price formulas. So we will look into what sales programs does. So it's typically called as deals. So when you would like to take the system, I mean, we can call them as deals or a new deal creation or so on. Right. So I see that there are a couple of deals in the system here. For example, we can take a Super Bowl deal that I have created for this particular scenario. Right. So let me open this up for you. Right. So if you see this, it's called as a sales program, which is named as Super Bowl. We just minimize this particular pass tab here and show you what are the different options available that can be configured in one single screen. So I can call as sales program is typical to your deal, which is a one-stop location to um, configure all the factors that impact the price of a particular item with a combination of vendor and customer. Right, so if you see there are fast tabs like general, funding agreement, rebate agreement, price formula, trade agreement, and retail discount. So all these are coming up in one single screen here. Right, you can create new, you can activate, expire, validate, and so on. Right. So let's get into general and see what are the options available for us here. So here I'll be creating a deal called Super Bowl, and I'm saying that this is valid for an item Pepsi, right? So I have created this for Pepsi item, right? And for this particular deal, this particular deal is active from 1st of November to 30th of November, and we are saying that there is a funding agreement. So I'll come back to what funding agreement is. Typically, you can say that in your scenarios 3.13, for example, we have said that um, Pepsi is going to give you a scan coupon deal of 1.3 dollars off of cost per unit for all the 12 packs during the Super Bowl. So that particular deal has to be managed with the vendor Pepsi. So that is something that we are treating it as Pepsi is funding that particular deal here. So in that case, you scroll down and see that there is a agreement called funding agreement. So this is typically, let me just refresh that. So this is typically what your agreement is. So let's see what the agreement talks about. Into the details, it says that, hey, so this is my typical vendor chargeback rebate agreement that is a part of, again, our advanced supply chain software. So it says that we have initiated a rebate program called CB, which means chargeback, and this is applicable for a vendor, Pepsi, and for an item combination of Pepsi again. But yeah, you can always have a group or a all the vendors with a combination of one single item or a group of item of all the items, right? I'm saying that this is a unit of 12 pack. So, and the minimum quantity is one. This deal is active from so on to so date. And this is belonging to that particular deal, which is Super Bowl deal, right? So what I'm doing here is, if you come a little bit down, here you say that you are actually accumulating by invoice. So you've got a lot of options here. You can accumulate by month, you can accumulate by your week. So accumulation typically meaning your deals might be based on one single invoice. So you can say that, hey, whenever you sell a particular good, you will get a discount as soon as you invoice it, or you will get a rebate as soon as you invoice it. So that is one scenario. Or you can say that you'll create a deal where you say that you sell 100 quantities over a period of 1 month or 1 week, right? And the rebate agreement gets triggered and you will be charged back by the vendor. So in that case, you will always have the options of accumulating purchases by month, year, so on, right? And your accumulation is happening based on your calculations are happening based on your gross amount. These are the ledger account setups that you have done. So I've said that accrued vendor rebate receivables, and this is your expense account, accrued vendor rebates receipt, right? So you can set it up the way you have configured your accounts, right? And then you can say whether this rebate is based on the quantity or the total value of the sale that is being done, right? So here I'm saying that Pepsi will be charged whenever a 12 pack, I mean 12 pack of um, Pepsi is being sold, and there will be a $1.3 chargeback to the vendor. So let's say, for example, if I sell 10, 12 packs in the retail system, or in my POS, then I would be charging the vendor $1.3 into 10, which would be $13, and that would be a chargeback and a negative vendor invoice, which would be receivable from the vendor, right? So that's the concept, and once you set it up all, you have to just validate it. So it's already validated, so I'm going back. So just to summarize, I am coming back again to my program called Super Bowl. So I have gone into this particular form using our Super Bowl deal or a sales program, you can call it as, right? And that's your funding agreement where you're setting up a deal with the vendor. You can always set up a regular rebate agreement, which is typically with your customer. And there is a concept of price formula. Just to give you a brief of that, price formula is basically building up the sales price based on your cost price or purchase price or benchmark retail price, so on. So you can have your own formula saying that, hey, the markup percentage is 10, but the seasonal discount is 2%. So you can automatically calculate these values based on your cost price and purchase price. So you don't really have to manually go change your sales price. As soon as your cost price is changing, depending on the price formula, it picks up the new price. So yeah, but little bit irrelevant to this particular scenario here. There is trade agreements. Trade agreements are, again, by now you might have known that trade agreements are typically used to set up all kind of pricing information. So whether it be sales or sales price, or whether it be a discount price. So what I have done is we have created a funding agreement where we are saying that Pepsi will be charged $1.3 of all my sales. But how are we defining how are we relating that particular sale to this particular vendor? So here is the place where we are saying that, hey, this is the vendor agreement that I'm going to tag it to a particular sale. So I'm saying that all the customers, for all the customers, when you sell this particular item, right, a Pepsi, then this particular, so you are selling this particular item with the 12 pack, then I'm saying that this particular rebate agreement gets triggered. Just from the left. So this particular rebate agreement gets triggered, which is $1.3 per pack, right? So that's where you are relating your sales transaction with your vendor transactions, right? Vendor rebate, I can say. So now here the retail discount is can also be applied, and yes, your commissions can be given here. So just to brief you again, this is a one single stop or one stop location to give the deal information in total. Not only that, you can always go ahead and create a new sales order, which is called a simulation sales order, just to check the performance of this whole deal. You can play with numbers, you can enter an item and see how the sales price is coming up, how the discounts are coming up by you creating a new sales order here. So typically come some of the scenarios asked here where to check the margins, and also this feature can be used to see the margins. Right, so this has already been activated. Right, so I'll be going through one single transaction now. Let me go into the sales order. So in your ideal scenario, what will happen is all the sales will happen at the pause, and while doing the statement posting, they will come back to Dynamics 365 as a consolidated sales order which has been invoiced. So because I don't have that particular invoice right now, what I would do is I'll quickly create a sales order for any customer, because my relation was to any customer, right? So I'll take up the customer account, maybe 001 or so. Simple. Click on OK. I'll select my item as Pepsi. And let me take a pack of 10. I'll use my site and warehouse. So this is a little bit different instance because this is a machine where we have our advanced supply chain patch. So I'll be using this site and warehouse here, different site and warehouse here. So this can be configured based on your requirements, like a DC or a store. So so this is Aegis right now. I would like to make it 12 pack because that's the unit I have mentioned. So once you change the unit, the price automatically gets changed. So it's being picked up from the trade agreements once again. Right, once you do that, I'll click on the save. So yeah, the little green coloring thing here is because it's again an enhancement in the advanced supply chain software. So green means basically that the inventory is available. So you can configure it such a way that if the inventory is not available, it can be red. So one feature of it, right? So you can go into the price details here. So just to check the margins, how they are coming up here. So for example, here the base price is 51.96 and the unit price. So this is basically for that particular pack. So the unit price is 4.33 and the estimated margin percentage is 93.59, and the expected vendor rebate is 1.30. So that's per unit. So you go further down and you see that there is a trade agreement that has been tagged, which is typically the trade agreement which is relating your rebate agreement to it. And then you come further down, you will see that there is a vendor rebate agreement that has been allocated to a sales order. So what happens is as soon as I post this sales order invoice, this particular rebate agreement is getting triggered and this will generate a rebate claim there. So this is the link that we have provided between the sales transaction, the vendor rebate agreement. Right. So I'll quickly do the posting with the invoice. Okay. Posting is happening. As soon as the posting is done, you'll get a simple message saying that, hey, your rebate agreement has been created. So I'll pick up, so you see that the posting of sales order has been done. item number so and so, the rebate was processed. Right? The message can be still further enhanced, saying that the rebate claim has been generated and so on. This is advanced supply chain software is our ISV, so we can do this kind of minor changes as required. Right. So what I will do is I will go into rebate claims. So I can always go to my rebate claims from my favorites that I've selected here, but the actual navigation is from procurement and sourcing module. We'll go into vendor rebates here, and I can go into my rebate claims. Right. So these are all the list of my rebate claims, but I would like to search the rebate claim that we have just created or that has just been generated. Right? So if I go here, I can see the details that the status is calculated because this was accumulated by invoice. So as soon as the invoice has been posted, a rebate claim is being calculated. Calculated meaning it is still under review, so it has to go through an approval and later on. So there are certain buttons where you can see approve, accumulate, and process. Accumulate will not be valid for this particular scenario because here the accumulation was by invoice and we have already finished doing invoice. If the accumulation was by month or so on, was by month, then we would like the status would be to be calculated and we will have to do accumulation by month. Right. So here in this case, we will go down and see that the value is 1.3, which is your rebate value. The starting rebate amount is 13 because the quantity that was sales ordered was 10. So you'll have all this information here, having a sales order number, so you can refer back to the sales order because of which this rebate claim has been generated, right? So all this information is available, and then one of the approver will come and say that, hey, I would like to check this rebate claim. We can go here, right? So you can select the vendor. Okay. Says that rebate was processed successfully. Like I said, I mean, we can always change that saying that, hey, it was approved. So you observe the status here. It gets to status approved. So let's just go back to the single line screen here. It's easy for us to understand the status change. So let me click on process. This will process the. So now you observe that once I process the rebate agreement, data chargeback rebate, the message comes up saying that the vendor invoice VRIN V00085 has been right. So this vendor invoice is because the rebate claim has been processed. So where can you access this rebate claim is you can simply go into this rebate transactions here to see that there are journals that have been created and there is a invoice that here. I can quickly go and check the invoice and what are the transactions. There's a small setup that I mean I'm just doing it a manual approval here, but you can always set up saying that hey, this has to be approved by some authorized person, right? So this is because we are saying that the vendor invoice needs to be approved by somebody, right? So I'll go back into the vendor transactions and see whether this vendor invoice is available there. So far what we have done is we have set up a vendor chargeback rebate, right, which is dependent on the sales. So as soon as the sales invoice got posted, a rebate claim was generated. We have approved the rebate claim and processed the rebate claim, and this approval and process is always done by an authorized person, right? So once that is done, once the rebate claim has been processed, it automatically converts vendor invoice, which is being shown here, or you can go into the vendor account and always go into your invoice, or you can go into your vendor and then see the balance here. So this balance is calculated depending on your open transactions. So you see that there is a invoice number 85 which we have just generated. So it gives you the calculation based on this. So this was the actual purchase invoice. Again, the 384 was a purchase invoice, but all these three are rebate claims. That's why they are in a positive value, which are receivable from the vendor. So we can always go ahead and do a settlement and settle one of these rebate agreements against this so that your balance gets decreased and your payments get decreased. So this is future revenue that we are talking about here, that your $13 is the future revenue, $6.5 is the future revenue. So in our case, whatever the posting that we did, $13 is what our future, right? So you can go here, or you can always go into your vendor master pack and click on your invoice button, settle transactions here, and you see that there are all these transactions coming up here. So you can select any two transactions or all of them and knock it off against each other. So if you knock off these two transactions, it would be 7992 minus 13 would be your balance to the vendor, because that gets knocked off here. So this is where you can knock off your vendor balances and the payables from the receivable from the vendor. So I'm gonna post that, but yes, so this is the whole scenario where this will be the same scenario for your scenario number 4.10, where um, there will be a 0.10 of retail for the customer running. So there is a scenario which says that one of the scenarios at 4.10 and 7.17, which also talks about the an off invoice deal is offered for Cliff Bar vendor offers a scan based volume deal for 10 cents of cost per unit if SBM sells 100 cases and more. So quickly summarizing, you can set it up in, I think I have set up one for this Cliff Bar as well. Let me show it to you. So I go into my rebate agreements here, and if I come down, so this is my Cliff Bar or rebate agreement that I have set it up for Cliff Bar. So I've said that, hey, for this particular vendor should be charged, or if he sells a quantity of 886,400 quantity. So the reason why I have taken this particular quantity is that because one case I think was equals to 864 units, and that's 100 cases. So we have to set up a minimum quantity what qualifies for the rebate. So under line under the line details, I have set it up saying that, hey, if this is the quantity that has been reached, then this is the value that going to be charged back. So you can have all tiered setups as well. So I can always go ahead and add a line here saying that, hey, if it is more than 100,000, you'll get 0.20 cents as a chargeback. So you have that option too. So this is pretty much the explanation of how you can handle the scenarios 3.13, 4.10, and 6.17. Thank you.